Well, today we're going to be discussing the important transits that we will be experiencing in April. And boy, do I think it's going to be a very intense month. And that's what we're going to be talking about today using astrology. Now, for those of you that are new to my astrology channel, make sure that you like and subscribe. By the way, I practice sidereal Vedic astrology, which is the astrology from ancient India with my interpretation, of course. And then also, I want to remind all of you if you're interested in a personal private reading, check down below for details. I do recorded MP3 readings, but I also do private Zoom sessions. So check down below for details. And just as a reminder, this astrology reading is for entertainment purposes only. All these statements about what's going to happen, well, these are just my interpretations of the spiritual and astrological energies that are influencing the month of April. All right, so let's talk about some of the world events that are happening. Since astrology, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, so I want to kind of talk about, at least from the point of view of making this video on March 31st, what are some of the relevant issues. Now, I feel like there could be some really catalytic events happening in April, so this could definitely change. So let's talk about some of those world events that are happening right now. Obviously, since Donald Trump was elected president in the United States, it's caused a lot of changes around the world. That's one thing to bring up. For example, the tariffs. And then we also have, for example, there seems to be a withdrawing of support of what's happening in Ukraine. So we'll have to discuss that here in a moment. So some of the issues that are affecting us right now as a world, as a globe, the Trump presidency, like I said, it's been making waves all across the world with the threat of tariffs. So that already we know the world economy could definitely be in a catalytic kind of point here, just with all these tariffs going on. And then we have even Trump talking about trying to acquire Greenland, apparently, which is interesting. That's kind of just making waves. And then we have the economy in a general way. It's very difficult economy for everyday people. So a lot of the readings I do for just everyday people, they're talking about the food prices are high, the rent's high, buying a house is it's becoming increasingly more difficult for the younger generation. So it seems like there's a lot of opportunities that are out of reach right now. And, we could go back and we can blame the inflation, but the inflation's here. And so a lot of people are having difficulty. And the third point here is Europe is on edge right now. They continue to grapple with the situation in Ukraine. So European Union is essentially, from what I can make out, feeling more isolated, and the U.S. appears to be withdrawing support. The Middle East continues to be very tense. We know there's a lot of activity happening in the Middle East, for example, with Yemen. And then there's the controversial plan that Trump had introduced about what his plans were for Gaza. And so that is very controversial. The gold prices continue to surge. So many people suggest that people are going into gold because there's a sense of insecurity about the economy. There's a lot of indicators right now that we could be entering some sort of recession. So that's something to discuss using some of these transits. We're going to be talking about the Saturn transit, which just came up, by the way. So remember March 29th, Saturn changed signs from Aquarius into Pisces. And if we look at Donald Trump's chart, Saturn has moved into the eighth house. And not only Donald Trump, but JD Vance. And even Elon Musk, it's entered eighth from Moon in his chart. This suggests some sort of emergency or crisis that's going to be coming here in the near future since Saturn moved into Pisces, which is the eighth house. So I feel like we are in the beginning of this crisis that's yet to emerge. Now, there's some important transits that we're going to talk about that could definitely be a trigger point for a larger crisis. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a moment. So the big thing I want to talk about with April is, right out of the gate, and I don't know if you can see the first line there, the frame of my face in it might be blocking it. But right out of the gate, at the end of the month of March, on the March 29th, that's when Saturn changed signs. So it was at the very end of the month. And then we had that solar eclipse on March 29th as well. That was in the sign of Pisces. So there were two major transits that just happened right on March 29th. So this is essentially affecting the energies moving into April. So we're in this change energy. Now, if you watched my Saturn video, usually with the Saturn change, usually there's a change of karmic circumstances that occurs. Right when Saturn changes signs, it's always a very important time to really watch the news and see what's going to be developing. Because what Saturn's doing is Saturn's going to be bringing in a new set of lessons. Saturn's going to be bringing in a new set of situations that we have to deal with as a collective and then also in our personal charts. So that's something to consider. So, for example, if we use a case study when Saturn entered Capricorn back in January of 2020 to January of 2023, the pandemic was one of the themes that occurred when Saturn was transiting Capricorn. So, and that occurred, Saturn entered January of 2020. And then in March 2020, that was when the pandemic was declared. So, usually within the first few months of these Saturn transits, we usually get an idea of what the new set of karmic circumstances are going to be for this transit. So, that's why it's such a pivotal point right now with all the energies going on. Now, the Saturn's transit through Pisces, this is kind of an interesting transit because Pisces tends to be a very mysterious, otherworldly, unknown threat. So those of you might remember a few months ago, there was kind of a lot of hysteria with these drone sightings that were happening, not just in the US, but around the world. And so there was kind of this mysterious unknown element. People were kind of worried about that. Well, we may continue to have these unknown, just mysterious sightings of different things because Pisces is a very mysterious sign. Pisces is the natural 12th house in the natural zodiac. So, for example, when we think of things like UFOs or unknown objects, that would be the sign of Pisces or the sign of Scorpio usually, but it'd be one of those two signs that would be, really being influenced. So when Saturn's going into Pisces, Saturn represents the established order. So there's this idea of imposing order on these mysterious movements. What's going on here? We need to establish order. But since Pisces is such a mysterious sign, Saturn might not know how to impose order on this very mysterious unknown threats. Pisces also can represent things coming from the skies. So outer space, the skies, even like deep under the ocean. So there's this kind of unknown elements, very mysterious. Saturn's trying to put some sort of control over it because Saturn likes to maintain control. So some of the trigger points that I see this month. Now, this month could definitely get hot. We have a lot of conflicts going on around the world. April 2nd, and this is going to be flavoring the whole month all the way till June 6th, actually, is going to be Mars entering the sign of Cancer. Now, why do I make a big deal about this Mars entering the sign of Cancer from April 2nd to June 6th? Well, remember when Mars originally went retrograde a few months ago, it started out in the sign of Cancer. It retrograded back in the Gemini. Now it's coming back into Cancer where it started the retrograde, but it's direct now. So there's a lot of karmic situations that are coming up. Now, the reason why Mars is in Cancer is such a big deal is Mars is debilitated in the sign of Cancer. Now, what does that mean? When Mars is debilitated, it's a low vibrational energy. It's an energy that people can act impulsively, people can act very rashly. So if we have a lot of hot heads with world leaders, that is something that can happen when Mars is transiting in the sign of Cancer. So when we're thinking about the possibility of warfare, when we're thinking about the possibility of war, this is increased when Mars is in the sign of Cancer because people are not being able to hold their cool during this transit. Let me pull up the slide again. So this is a very difficult time. Could definitely be the trigger point of where we see what lessons are being brought in with this Saturn transit. Okay, so you'll notice that other planets are making moves and kind of bringing in this new situation. So the next 2 months, I feel like, are going to be pivotal with this Mars transit. Now, April 7th, I do want to bring that up. April 7th, when Mercury goes direct, but many of you may notice on that day, there's a stellium of 4 planets within about 3 degrees of each other in the sign of Pisces. So, right where Mercury goes direct, you're going to have Rahu, Saturn, and Venus all there in Pisces. That's a powerful energy there, right in Pisces. By the way, Pisces is the eighth house. And I think I brought this up before when we were talking about Saturn, but we have the eighth house of Donald Trump's chart, the eighth house of JD Vance, and so forth. And the eighth house can represent sudden, explosive, shocking events, can represent bankruptcy. So some sort of uh, catalytic events happening there. So April 7th, we got the stellium of planets. Rahu can tend to bring in unusual situations. Saturn's there. If we look at Donald Trump's chart, Saturn is the sixth lord. So there's a lot of difficulty there. A lot of energy focused in that sign of Pisces. On April 12th, we're going to have the full moon in Virgo. Virgo is the natural sixth house. So the sixth house can represent conflict and imbalance. And then in April 27th, we have the new moon in Aries. And of course, Aries can represent a lot of active movement. So let's kind of break down what this whole month is about. I feel like there's increased tensions around the world. I feel like there's a lot of anger that's happening. I feel like there's more of an escalation type of tone for the month of April. I don't feel like it's a reconciliatory tone. I feel like it's more of a tone of warfare. I feel like we're likely to see some more escalations. And I feel like we're going to be seeing some emerging situations in international conflict. So I'm quite worried about it. Now, for example, when Mars is going through the sign of Cancer and it's debilitated, it's going to be in the 12th house of Donald Trump's chart. The 12th house represents international affairs. So I feel like there's going to be some major events that are happening worldwide. And I feel like people are going to be losing their cool this month. And this is going to bring in a new set of global circumstances. So I want everyone to be prepared for this. I feel like this is a really big change. Now, the fact that Saturn just changed signs, that's what's casting a big shadow over the month. We have Saturn just changing signs, bringing in this new set of karmic situations. And that's really what got me, what has me worried for the month of April. Now, what do you all think down below? I feel like it's going to be a very intense month. I feel like there's going to be a lot of fast moving stories and fast moving changes this month. Now, let me know what you think below, what's going to happen in April. I know a lot of you have your opinion on what's going on. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up Trump a lot is he's kind of like this wild card figure that's entering the world stage. So I don't mean to neglect our international audience, because I know that I have an international audience, but I'm bringing up this Trump situation because he's this new catalyst figure that I feel is going to influence this emerging situation that's going to be occurring in the month of April, but also the month of May during this Mars transit through the sign of Cancer. So anyways, let me know what you think down below. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next video.